Hello. Hi, my name is Abhi and I am here to show you how to code in Magento. Since I've literally just started doing Magento very lately, I thought I might as well show you everyone that how to code in Magento, develop your own modules and packages, and share my knowledge with everyone who's looking forward to get themselves into Magento, as it can be a bit tricky and it can be a bit of a nightmare sometimes trying to code or develop your own Magento module. Before we crack on with the nifty-gritty of exactly how to code in Magento, I'm going to tell you a little bit history of what is Magento and when it was all started. So Magento, as we all know, and I hope you know, people who are watching this video, is an open source e-commerce platform which is written in PHP. It started way back in 2007 in California, and after gaining quite a lot of popularity, eBay thought, oh, we'll have a piece of it. And in 2010, if I'm not wrong, eBay decided to have a bit of a share in the Magento ownership, which was initially 49%. And if I'm not wrong, on June 6th of June 2011, that's when eBay announced that it would be acquiring the rest of the Magento platform itself, and it would be part of eBay eBay enterprise. So that is a bit of an overview of Magento, and Magento, the Magento I've currently got installed is Magento 2.1, and Magento comes in three different flavors. One is CE, which is Community Edition, Magento Enterprise Edition, and Magento Enterprise Cloud Edition. The one I've got is Magento Community Edition, as it's free, and that's what we will be working on. So that was a bit of a history of Magento. Now let's crack on with some actual number crunching. So I'm going to quickly change my directory to where my Magento is installed, and as you can see, and people who are familiar with Linux, I'm sure you know what I'm doing, but who are not, basically what I've done, I've changed my directory to var www and test folder. This is where my Magento is installed. If I quickly do a quick directory check of all the folders, you can see this is the main bit where my Magento is installed. So I've got that all up and running. I've got Apache 2, PHP 7.0, SQL all set up, and Magento up and running. Right. So before you actually can start developing any module in Magento, you need to be careful of one thing, that you always code your module inside a specific folder, which in Magento 2 is the app folder. As you can see, the app folder, I'm going to go inside the app folder, and in there's another folder called code folder, and I'm going to change my directory to code folder. If the folder is not there, then make sure that you manually create one. Right, so instead of doing that on the terminal, I'm going to do it on the nice new user interface to make it easy for you. So I've got this code folder here, which, as you can see in the on the top of it, breadcrumb trail, that it's all inside test, which is where Magento is installed, app and code folder. And here I'm going to create my new module. So before you create your module, you need to first create a folder which will be named after your vendor or organization, as you have a specific and very strict naming convention in Magento. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to name it as Abhi, which will be my vendor name. I go inside Abhi, and here I'm going to create a new folder which will be the name of my module. And since we're creating a module which all it's going to do is literally just going to print Hello World on your browser screen, so I'm going to name it Hello. I go inside Hello, I'm going to create a folder inside Hello which will be called etc. Right, so the etc folder is a very important folder, as this is the founding this is the very first step and the foundation of a Magento module. Inside etc folder, we create our very first module file, which will be called module.xml. So what it actually does is that it tells Magento that, hi Magento, I've got a module, its name is this, and its setup version is this. A setup version is essentially just the version of telling Magento that, right, I've started my very first module 1.0, and as soon as you, as later on when you update your modules, you just increase the setup version and then few CLI commands, and then it just updates itself. But do not to worry, I'm going to walk you through with all that bit, just a bit of brief information of what module.xml does. Since it's an XML file, so I'm going to quickly create a syntax of an XML file to tell that this is an XML file. And inside XML file, you have two definitely defined tags: config and module tags. So most of the time in Magento, when you're coding, quite a lot of stuff is already predefined and is set standard. So what I have done for your convenience, I've also set up a blog which is all good to go, up and running, and there you can actually see step by step on how to create your module here. And the link of this episode documentation will be in the description, so you can also, if you feel lucky, you can also go through on how to install Apache and everything. And also the next thing is, which will be the further tutorials, which is already on the blog. I will be trying my best to making sure that I do at least 1 or 2 videos or blogs weekly to make sure that you guys are kept updated. But it can get a bit busy sometimes, to be honest with you guys. Right. So as I was saying, we got our module.xml. So here, as you can see, this config.xml is there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly copy this bit and paste it back in my XML file, because most of the time it is very well standard. I've just missed X there, so I'm going to manually type X there to copy as is. And right, so we got that all sorted with config file's name. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to tell what is our module name and setup underscore version. Right, as I was saying, setup underscore version, I generally prefer to start with the 1.0.0, but you can do whatever you think like. I mean, I've seen some developers doing 0.0.1. That's entirely up to you. There's no there's no hard and fast rule. And my module name, since my vendor name was Abhi with A capitals and my module was Hello, so I'm gonna make sure I'll give the similar naming convention. Make sure if your folder has a capital, it has to be a capital in the module declaration as well. So I've got A and H capital. Right, so I've quickly created a module file, I've saved it and closed it, and that's all done and good to go. Right, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the Hello folder, and here I'm going to create a new file which will be called registration.php. Now what this file does is, all it does is just literally tells Magento that I'm going to register this module, and that is its name and its directory and all that. Most of it is it's as I said before, it's well defined. So all you have to do, go back to my blog, which is and copy this whole thing and paste it. Since I've got both my vendor and module name same, so I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to save it, and it's all done. Right. So far so good, all looking good. So what we have done is inside the code folder we got a vendor Abhi, and inside that we call the module Hello, and in there we got a etc folder, which is where we got module.xml, where we have defined the module name and setup version, and a registration.php inside the module root folder, which defines what our registration name is. Right. So the very 2 basic building blocks to tell Magento that I am going to register a module with such and such name are all done. Right, what we need to do next is pass a couple of CLI commands, and once we have done that, and once Magento has taken that on board, it will show you that there is a module called Abhi_hello, and I've got that and it's enabled. Right, to do so, what we're going to do, go back to terminal the good old way. As you can see, when I was in terminal last time, I intentionally left it on inside an app folder. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the Magento folder, which is where it's all installed. So whenever you're going to pass any of the CLI commands which is associated with Magento to enable your module, to do a setup upgrade, to clear cache, there's so many commands which will come handy later on. Make sure your terminal is always pointing to your root Magento folder. I mean, if you're not, then you have to pass the whole path where this all been and where the all Magento files are located. But it's always very easy, and that means you have to do less typing. Right. So the command begins with php space bin Magento module enable, and my module name will be hello. And it says no module will change because I created this before, but if I didn't do that, it would say yes, the module has been enabled. And now what I'm going to do, pass another command which says php Magento setup upgrade. Enter. Now what it does, once I pass this command, it just goes through all your module, check for all the existing module, and make sure that it upgrades upgrade its file, Magento's file. And if I scroll up, I should be able to point where. So here we go. So I've got this module, hello, and it says data installed and update. Right, we got that all up and running. Now the best way to check that how your module is enabled is go to the admin panel. And just to quickly tell you that all these commands, everything is available on my blog, which as I'm pointing out here, is all there. Right, so I'm going to go to my Magento module, quickly sign in, and I'm just going to show you that how to see that your module has been enabled. Generally, there are two ways to check once your module has been enabled. One is through the admin panel, which I'm going to show you now, and another way, the cheekiest way, which I always prefer, is through the backend. So what we're going to do while it's loading, I'm going to go to the app folder in there, go inside the etc folder, open config.php, and in there you can see all your modules in an array which is pointing to 1 and 0. 1 is enabled, 0 is not enabled. As we can see, hello module is enabled. So we are all done there. That's we have checked. Now I'm going to quickly go back to my admin panel. Now to check through admin panel, you need to go click on stores and then configuration. While it's loading, I just want to point out the reason why it's taking time, because I cleared all my cache before, so that's why. Well, when generally the cache is all cleared, it's super fast. You go to advanced option and then click on advanced again. Once you've done that, on your right hand side you will see all your modules. It's all there, enabled, disabled, which you can check. Right, so we got a module enabled, set up, and the Magento knows that yes, I've got your module, it's all enabled, and it's all with me. Right, so Magento is happy, our modules files are happy. Now everything is there. What's missing? Obviously the logic. We haven't programmed anything on how to code a module and how to program it, as if like it hasn't got any brain. We just got a bit of a skeleton setup, if that, to be honest with you, with reference to Magento. Right, to crack on with your bit of a skeleton and cosmetic stuff, which we want, what we're going to do is we go back to our app code folder. I click on code, I go back to my hello module, and in there I'm going to create inside etc, I'm going to create a new folder. It will be called front end, and inside front end I'm going to create a new file which will be called roots with s roots.xml. XML file again, so we're going to do it XML version 1.0 and config tag again, config tag again, and in there we got router with an ID, which I'm going to set it to standard. Close the router tag. Make sure when you're typing this, make sure you close your tags, because I've done many mistakes in the past where I've either forgot to close it or I had a typo when I'm closing it, and when you do that, debugging can be a right nightmare. So make sure when you're opening a tab, close it at the same time to be on safe side. Right, we've got router set up. Inside router, we got a root tag. So in root tag, we got root ID and its front name. Now, the front name is a very vital thing, which I'll tell you in a bit that why it is. So make sure when you got your front name with the N capital, make sure you remember the name you give to your front name. In there we got your module name, happy hello, and close there. Right, so I'm gonna give my front name and ID same name, and quickly go back to my blog and copy the very special code here for config, which I need, right? Because most of the time it's standard, so there's no point typing it manually. I mean, if you like, you're more feel free to do it, but I generally just copy and paste it to save some time. Well, once I've copied it, I'm just going to go back to my file, paste it there, and it's all done. So as you can see, I've got my root folder set up, and file set up, and what this root file does, it tells Magento that how to actually root or how to approach our module. So front name is going to be very important, so note down somewhere what is your front name. So I know it's Abhi because it's my name, so I'm sure I'm going to remember that. Right, I'm going to close that. Right, I've got that all set up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Hello folder, which is my module root folder. In there I'm going to create a new folder which will be called controller with C capital. Go inside the controller folder, name my controller, and what shall we name? I am going to name my controller as hello. I've done that. Inside hello, I am going to create a new file, and I'm going to name that world.php. Right, so I'm going to quickly create a PHP file, specify the namespace where I am, which is happy hello controller hello, and I've got my class world. Now always make sure that your class name is exactly the same as your file name, and it is case sensitive. So I've got my W capital to my file, so I've got my K class capital as well. Right, so I've got my class, and it's going to extend inbuilt Magento framework action class. So the location is Magento framework app action. I've got that all set. Right, I've got my class. Now I'm going to declare two functions. Public function. The first one is going to be the construct function, and the second one is going to be my execute function. Now in here, our construct function and execute function are very vital functions, as I've kept it a very minimal setup, so I'm not going to introduce far more other things to complicate things for you, to confuse you. So I've got the two most vital functions which we definitely need before we can actually even run it. So as the name suggests, naming conventions are very common and very easy to understand these days. Execute is where the main logic is executed, and construct is when you actually create a new object of this class, this function is automatically called. So I'm going to type echo hello world, and just exit it to be on the safe side. Right, as you might have noticed, I've got this special function here which would start with 2 underscores. The reason why, because in Magento comes with i18n function, which is a multilingual function. So if you got multiple languages set up for your storefront, this will automatically translate hello world into the respective language for your client. So make sure you always pass any string with this i18n function rather than just passing straight to echo function. Right, so we got a construct function there, but it still hasn't got anything to do. So what we're gonna do is do a dependency injection. What dependency injection is basically, rather than creating a new object inside a class, the object of that class is already there and served to your class. It is a very new concept in Magento 2, unlike Magento 1, where you always have to create a new object either with new or with Mage, which we don't use that anymore. So what I'm going to do, we're going to do dependency injection of a special context class, which is Magento framework app action context with my data in there. Just to quickly take you back to my blog there, just to let you know, everything all is there for you. So if at any point you feel like you're getting it wrong, you can always refer it back, and it's all there for you. So and good to go. Right, so I'm going to go back and quickly tell my function what to return. So I'm going to do return to parent construct with that data. Now that's all done there. Right, so since I've got that all set up, good to go and running, what we need to do now is go back to a browser and just tell our browser that, right, this is our module there, and just run it. As I was saying before, the naming convention is very vital and very important, and front name is also very important. Now this will all come into play. To do so, I'm just going to quickly tell you that how this all works. So I'm going to quickly go back to my browser there and open a new tab, and first type in what is the storefront store, which is in my case is test.com, and test.com, and the very first thing which will be is my front name. And if we quickly go back to hello, to etc, if we quickly go back to etc front end root, our front name is Avi. So that's the second bit. So sorry, that's the very first bit after to our URL construction. After test.com / the first thing we're going to type is a front name. Once we got that, the second name we're going to type is a controller folder name. And if you remember, I created a folder inside the module root folder, and that folder name is hello. So I'm going to type it hello, and then my class name, which is world. So I'm going to type world. And that's it, and that's where we have constructed our URL to access our module. So just to repeat again, the way your module URL is constructed is first your storefront name, which in my case is test.com. I've got it all configured through host file in my Linux, which is actually pointing to my local host. And then after / the first thing is your front name, which is Abhi, and then the controller folder name, which I named hello, and then the class name. Magento normally refers to it as an action name, which is the same thing, because our class, if you remember, our class here extended action class, so action, which is world. So that's where you have constructed your URL, and if I hit enter, hopefully you should see a text saying hello world, and that's it. We have made our very first Hello World Magento module with just basic 6 steps on how to do that. And just to repeat again, all these steps are available on my blog, and I've mentioned that link in my description, so you can go back and refer to it. That's all for now, guys. I will be in touch with you very shortly, where I am going to post the second part of this video, which is basically Hello World UI introduction. I've already got the unblock, so if you are eager and if you can't wait, you can quickly go and help yourself there. But what the next step will do is, at the moment, what we're doing is just printing Hello World in just on a browser without any existing Magento's UI, that is its header, footer, and every other supported framework. With the next bit, we're gonna do that, so Hello will actually come within our storefront page. Well, that's all for now, guys. I'll speak to you next time. Cheers.